There is a guilt that is unique to our modern world. It is not the guilt of a great moral failing. It is the quiet, nagging guilt of doing nothing. Have you felt it? That wave of anxiety that hits you when you finally sit down? That inner voice that immediately starts listing all the things you should be doing? That subtle yet powerful feeling that your worth is directly tied to your productivity? In a culture that worships the altar of busy, stillness has become the ultimate sin. Rest is seen as a weakness, a luxury you haven't earned, a waste of precious time. And so we run. We fill every empty moment with tasks, with content, with noise. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, secretly believing that if we just stop moving, we will be revealed as lazy, worthless, and left behind. But what if this relentless motion is not a sign of your strength, but a symptom of your deepest fear? What if your inability to rest is a flight from your own soul? The visionary psychologist Carl Jung understood this profoundly. He taught that our culture's obsession with doing is a defense mechanism against the quiet and often uncomfortable work of being. He knew that stillness is not empty. It is the sacred container for the deepest processes of the psyche. It is the fertile ground where the seeds of our wholeness, discovered through shadow work, can finally take root and grow. Today, we will challenge the tyranny of busy. We will expose the lie that your value is in your output. And we will reclaim the lost art of sacred stillness, not as an act of laziness, but as one of the most powerful, intelligent, and courageous acts of self-healing you can ever undertake. To understand our personal struggle with rest, we must first recognize that we are swimming in a cultural sea that is deeply, fundamentally hostile to stillness. We live in a civilization of hustle, a world that has deified productivity. Your worth is not intrinsic. It is measured by your output, by your achievements, by how busy you appear to be. The good person is the productive person. The successful person is the one who is always moving, always striving, always optimizing. And the opposite of this? Stillness, rest, unstructured being time. In this cultural equation, if productivity is God, then stillness is sin. This is the air we breathe. It is the water we swim in. And this collective belief system has created what we might call a massive societal productivity shadow. As we know from the work of Carl Jung, when a culture collectively values one quality, it must unconsciously repress its opposite. Our society worships the bright, shiny persona of the achiever, and so it casts the quiet, contemplative, and restful parts of our human nature into the collective shadow. We learn from a very young age that to be still is to be lazy. To rest is to be unproductive. To do nothing is to be worthless. This programming is relentless. It comes from our school systems, our workplaces, and our own families. Let's think about a woman named Linda, a 35-year-old mother of two who runs her own small online business. She is the epitome of the modern superwoman. She wakes up at 5 a.m. to answer emails before the kids get up. She packs lunches, drives carpool, manages her business, cooks dinner, helps with homework, and collapses into bed at 11 p.m., only to repeat the cycle the next day. Her friends and family admire her. "I don't know how you do it all," they say. And this praise is the fuel that keeps her running on the hamster wheel.
Her identity, her sense of self-worth is completely fused with her ability to do it all. Last weekend, she was sick. A bad flu. Her body was screaming for her to stop. For the first time in years, she spent a full day in bed. But she wasn't resting. She was at war with herself. Her mind was a torture chamber of guilt. The laundry is piling up. I should be answering those client emails. My kids are probably just watching TV. I'm a bad mother. The stillness of her body was so terrifying to her conditioned mind that it created a storm of anxiety and self-recrimination. She felt more stressed lying in bed doing nothing than she did on her busiest day. By the end of the day, she was physically recovering, but emotionally, she was a wreck. Linda's experience is not unique. It is the experience of millions of us who are trapped in the cult of busy. But Carl Jung would invite us to look deeper. He would suggest that our cultural obsession with productivity is not just a social issue, it is a spiritual one. He called it a flight from the self. Why do we run so frantically? Why do we fill every available second with stimulation and tasks? Because we are terrified of what we might find in the silence. The silence is where the whispers from the shadow live. It is where the uncomfortable feelings we have been suppressing, our sadness, our grief, our loneliness, have finally had a chance to be heard. It is where the big existential questions we have been avoiding come to the surface. Am I happy? Is this the life I truly want? What is my purpose? Busyness is the most effective anesthetic of our time. It is a brilliant strategy of the ego to keep us from the deep, often painful, but ultimately liberating work of self-inquiry. As long as we are running, as long as we are doing, we don't have to feel. We don't have to face the truth of our own inner world. Your struggle to rest is not just a bad habit. It is a deeply ingrained defense mechanism. The guilt you feel is not just your own. It is the voice of a collective that is itself terrified of the inner world. When Linda tried to rest, she wasn't just fighting her own to-do list. She was fighting the collective belief that her worth is conditional, that she is only valuable when she is producing, serving, or achieving. She was fighting the deep unconscious fear that if she stops doing, she will cease to be. This is the lie that keeps us exhausted. This is the spell that keeps us running. And the only way to break the spell is not to run faster or to find a more efficient way to manage our tasks. The way to break the spell is to dare to do the one thing we have been taught to fear the most. To stop. To be still. And to see what is actually waiting for us on the other side of the silence.
To see what is waiting for us on the other side of the silence. This requires a profound shift in our understanding of what rest actually is. Our culture has given us a very limited and impoverished definition. We tend to think of rest as simply downtime, the empty space between productive tasks. Downtime is often just another form of distraction. It's scrolling mindlessly through social media. It's binge-watching a series to numb out. It's the passive consumption of content to keep the inner silence at bay. While this can provide temporary relief, it does not truly restore the soul. It is like eating junk food when your body is craving real nourishment. It fills the space, but it does not replenish you. The kind of rest that Carl Jung points to, the kind that is essential for healing and wholeness, is something entirely different. Let's call it sacred stillness. Sacred stillness is not a passive state. It is an active, conscious, and intentional practice. It is the act of creating a container for your psyche to do its most important work. Think of it like sleep. When you are sleeping, your conscious, doing mind is offline. Your body appears to be doing nothing. But in that stillness, a universe of vital activity is taking place. Your cells are repairing themselves. Your brain is consolidating memories. Your nervous system is regulating. Sleep is not empty time. It is one of the most productive and intelligent processes of life. Sacred stillness is the psychological equivalent of sleep for the soul. It is in this stillness that the deep work of integration, the core of shadow work, actually happens. When you stop the constant input of the external world, your psyche finally has the bandwidth to process, to digest, and to heal. Let's explore the 3 superpowers that are cultivated in this sacred space. The first superpower is creativity. The conscious mind, the ego, is a wonderful tool for executing plans, but it is not the source of true original creativity. Great ideas, insights, and artistic inspirations do not come from forcing your mind to work harder. They emerge from the unconscious. They bubble up from the depths of the psyche. But they can only emerge when there is space, when there is silence. Many of the world's most brilliant minds understood this. Einstein famously got his insights not while hunched over equations, but while sailing or playing the violin. Archimedes had his eureka moment while relaxing in a bathtub. Sacred stillness is the fertile void where the dots connect themselves. It is where you create the conditions for the unconscious to deliver its gifts to your conscious awareness. If you feel creatively blocked, the solution is not to try harder. The solution is to stop trying altogether. The solution is to rest. The second superpower is regulation. Our nervous systems in the modern world are in a constant state of low-grade activation. The endless pings, the pressure to perform, the constant stream of information, it all keeps us in a state of fight or flight. This is utterly exhausting, and it is the root of so much of our anxiety and burnout. The antidote is sacred stillness. It is the act of consciously downshifting your nervous system from a state of doing to a state of being. When you sit quietly, when you walk slowly in nature, or when you simply watch the breath move in and out of your body, you are sending a powerful message to your primal brain. We are safe. We are not under threat. You can stand down. This practice of conscious rest is not an indulgence. It is essential maintenance for your biological hardware. It is what allows your body to move out of a survival state and into a state of healing and repair. A calm nervous system is the foundation for all clear thinking, emotional resilience, and physical health. And this leads to the third and most profound superpower of sacred stillness. It is the connection to the self. The self in the Jungian model is the wise, whole, authentic center of your being. It is your inner compass. But its voice is quiet. It is a whisper, not a shout. And you cannot hear a whisper in the middle of a rock concert. The constant noise and busyness of our lives is the rock concert that drowns out the voice of the self. The ego is always shouting its plans, its fears, its to-do lists. Sacred stillness is the act of intentionally turning down the volume of the ego so that the whisper of the self can finally be heard. It is in the quiet moments of doing nothing that you might suddenly get a clear, intuitive hit about a decision you need to make. It is in the stillness that you might feel a deep, resonant yes to a new path, or a firm, grounded no to an old one. It is where you receive the guidance that your rational mind could never have calculated. This is the ultimate purpose of rest from a Jungian perspective. It is not just about recharging your batteries so you can go back to being productive for the ego. It is about creating the sacred space required to hear the agenda of your soul. So the next time you feel that familiar guilt for resting, I want you to reframe it. You are not being lazy. You are not being productive. You are a creative, incubating a new idea. You are a healer, regulating your nervous system. You are a mystic, listening for the voice of the divine within you. You are engaging in one of the most powerful and courageous practices available to a human being. You are tending to the sacred fire of your own aliveness. Tending to the sacred fire of your own aliveness. This is the reframe. This is the shift from guilt to reverence. But knowing the value of stillness is one thing. Actually allowing yourself to practice it in a world that screams for your attention is another. The inner critic, the warden of the productivity shadow, is a powerful and persistent voice. It will not go down without a fight. So we do not start by trying to defeat this voice. That is a battle we will likely lose. Instead, we start by gently, consistently, choosing to listen to a different voice instead. The voice of our own exhausted body. The whisper of our own weary soul. This is a practice of building a new muscle. And like any muscle, we start with very light weights. We do not begin by booking a month-long silent retreat. We begin with a single conscious breath. I want to offer you a very gentle, practical piece of shadow work to begin healing your relationship with rest. A way to give yourself the permission slip you have been waiting for. Let's call this practice the 5 sacred minutes. Sometime today, I want you to find 5 minutes. That's all. 5 minutes where you can be relatively undisturbed. You can set a gentle timer on your phone so you don't have to watch the clock. During these 5 minutes, your only job is to do absolutely nothing productive. You can sit in a chair and look out the window. You can lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling. You can stand in your garden and listen to the birds. No phone, no book, no podcast, no chores. Just you and the space and your breath. Now, here is the crucial part. As you sit in this stillness, the inner critic will show up. It is guaranteed. It will come armed with your to-do list, with your anxieties, with its favorite weapons of should and lazy and waste of time. When this voice arises, your task is not to argue with it. It is not to fight it. And it is definitely not to believe it. Your task is to simply notice it and then to gently pivot. I want you to create a simple, powerful mantra for yourself, a statement of truth that you can repeat silently in your mind whenever the inner critic starts its attack. The mantra could be something like, "This is not laziness, this is healing." Or, "My stillness is my strength." Or simply, "I am allowed to just be." Choose one that resonates with you. Write it down if you need to. So, the inner critic says, you should be answering those emails. You take a breath, you feel your feet on the floor, and you silently repeat your mantra. This is not laziness. This is healing. You are not trying to silence the critic. You are simply choosing not to engage. You are letting its voice be the background noise while you bring the quiet, compassionate voice of your mantra to the foreground. You are, in the language of Carl Jung, withdrawing psychic energy from the old toxic thought pattern and reinvesting it in a new, life-affirming one. You are consciously aligning with the wisdom of the self over the panic of the ego. The first few times you do this, it will feel like an act of profound rebellion. It may feel uncomfortable, awkward, even stressful. That's okay.
That is the feeling of a new muscle being worked. That is the feeling of a deeply ingrained program being challenged. But if you continue to practice, even just for 5 minutes a day, something will begin to shift. You will start to notice that the voice of the inner critic gets a little quieter. Its arguments will seem a little less convincing. The silence will start to feel less like an empty void and more like a peaceful sanctuary. You will begin to notice the subtle gifts that stillness offers. A new idea might float into your mind unbidden. You might suddenly understand the solution to a problem you've been wrestling with. Or you might simply feel a quiet sense of peace, a gentle reconnection to your own body. You are creating a new relationship with yourself, a relationship not based on your performance, but on your presence. This is the beginning of the end of the tyranny of busy. It is the first step toward reclaiming your right to exist, not just to produce. This simple practice of the 5 sacred minutes is a profound act of shadow integration. You are consciously welcoming the part of you that was exiled for being unproductive. You are bringing the lazy, still being part of your nature out of the dark basement and giving it a place of honor in the living room of your life. And by doing so, you are moving towards the wholeness that Carl Jung saw as the ultimate goal of a well-lived life. So I invite you, give yourself 5 minutes. Give yourself this gift. You have earned it, simply by being alive.
And so we begin a quiet rebellion. A rebellion not against the world, but against the tyranny of busy within our own minds. We began this journey feeling the profound guilt and anxiety that comes from daring to be still. We learned that this is not a personal failing, but a collective conditioning, a productivity shadow that haunts our culture. We exposed the lie that busyness is a sign of worth, and revealed it for what it often is, a flight from the self. We then learned to differentiate between the empty distraction of downtime and the profound restorative power of sacred stillness. We discovered that in this stillness lies the superpowers of creativity, regulation, and a deep connection to the self. This is the fertile ground of shadow work. And finally, we were given a gentle, practical tool, the 5 sacred minutes, to begin healing our relationship with rest and to start integrating the exiled part of us that simply wants to be. This is not a small thing. In a world that is constantly trying to pull you out of yourself, the choice to consciously turn inward, to honor your need for stillness, is a radical act of self-love and sovereignty. It is you choosing to listen to the wisdom of your soul over the noise of the world. As you continue this practice, as you start to create more space for stillness in your life, you may notice a new layer of the inner critic emerging. You have given yourself permission to rest, but a deeper, more painful question may arise from the quiet. Do I truly deserve this? Am I worthy of this peace, this care, this love? This feeling of unworthiness is one of the deepest and most painful wounds many of us carry. It is the root of so much of our self-sabotage and people-pleasing. It is the belief, buried deep in our shadow, that we are fundamentally flawed and must constantly earn our right to exist, our right to be loved. Where does this wound come from? And how, through the lens of Carl Jung, can we begin to heal it and claim our inherent worthiness? That is the profound and tender territory we will be exploring together in our next video.
I invite you to subscribe, to join us for this essential conversation on the path to wholeness. For now, your work is simply to rest. I invite you to make a commitment in the comments below, not to a grand plan, but to a small act of rebellion. Simply write, "I will take my 5 sacred minutes." Let this space be a collective testament to the courage it takes to be still. Your commitment may be the permission slip someone else needs to see today. Remember, you do not have to earn your right to rest. Your weariness is your permission slip. Your breath is your permission slip. Your existence is your permission slip. Be still and know.